Seems like these days, if you look under the mistletoe, the main person you're going to find is Justin Bieber. And the reason Justin Bieber's under the mistletoe is because he's probably interested in smooching. Of course, I'm sure he's only amongst the millions of folks who bring mistletoe into their homes in the hopes of grabbing some extra smooches over the holiday season. But looking at this plant for its name and its biology, worldwide there are over 1,300 species. Although there are 12 species in 3 genera that are found in the United States, the most common one that we see is Phoradendron leucarpum. The eastern mistletoe is the main species. The range of mistletoe is along the southern U.S. and the eastern and western coastal plains from New York to Oregon. This range is roughly the cold hardiness zone of 6B and higher, as freezing temperatures typically kill back mistletoe, keeping it from being successful over the long term in colder regions. If you dissect the Latin, Phoradendron is thief of the tree. So this alludes to the fact that this is a parasitic plant that does derive its nutrients and cannot live apart from the tree host. It is the tree host that provides the other structure and functionality which will allow the water uptake to come into the plant. So if you were to remove mistletoe from a tree and try to establish it as a plant, it would not be able to function in that way. Here in Southeast Virginia, it's very interesting. Driving around, it is almost not existent in the canopied forest. A lot of times we're seeing this near road edges. This is a road in a stream. A lot of nearby sites where I see mistletoe are near streams, roads, and openings. Of course, in an urban environment, you often will see mistletoe, usually in older, more established trees. And I like to say it's usually in the yard of the people with the best bird feeders, because mistletoe is highly correlated with dispersal by birds. The birds will eat the ripe fruits that are on the mistletoe plant. You see those, you notice those when you purchase or have these plants. They're little white berries that are small, between an 1/8 and a 1/4 inch in size. These seeds are very sticky and mucilaginous, and even when they're eaten by the birds and pass through their digestive system, they still remain have the sticky coating, and thus when the bird deposits them out the other end, they can remain on the limb of the tree with that sticky substance. And of course also the rest of the bird poop, if you will, also helps to fertilize and attach that seed to the limb just long enough for the seed to be able to emerge a rooting structure called a haustoria through a crack in the bark or something like that, and then start to expand that haustoria structures into the branch. Although the haustoria can permeate the phloem and xylem area quite extensively in search of resources, the cells do remain completely separate, and there is no cellular content connection. The exchange of resources occurs outside of the cell wall space in the apoplast. Phoradendron is also the singular larval host of the great purple hairstreak, Atlatys halicis. That's why frequently you will see it on smaller limbs in the upper parts of trees. Some of that due to the places where the birds will land and deposit the seeds. and some of it is where it naturally will be able to be successful. And one interesting theory is in the Old English, mistle is translated as dung and tan as twig. So mistletoe could be chased back to the Anglo-Saxon or the Old English as dung twig. It takes some of the romance away from the plant as well. Mistletoe has been associated with many of our common songbirds in the eastern part of the United States, with robins, thrushes, and cedar waxwings. So some of this may explain why mistletoe is found in the locations and on the tree species of which they are found. However, mistletoe is very broad spectrum in the tree species that it will utilize as hosts. So you often see it in old oaks, but you can also see it in poplar, hackberry, elms, maples. Almost every species of hardwood will host the phorhodendron. Although mistletoe is parasitic, in most cases, as the mistletoe starts from seed, it grows a very small plant. Plants do not typically grow exceedingly rapidly. As you'll notice on the tree behind me, you will see more extensive growth within that tree as far as each individual plant. You see a lot of impacts on one singular tree. Again, this is a place where the birds apparently love to hang out. From the one larger tree down in the bottom, there are two new sites where it is taking hold on this tree closer to us. So again, this is where the birds tend to aggregate, and they're aggregating down here next to this water, probably due to some other site characteristics that are really attracting those birds. However, I've driven hundreds of miles around this site in the rest of the forest, and you can even look along the strip. You know, trees to this side, trees to the other side of the road, and no mistletoe there. So something has concentrated in this one area that really attracts the birds, and those trees nearby do have more than a small number of host sites. So while the plant is parasitic, it is rarely fatal to a tree. However, if you do have a favorite tree in your yard that you discover has become a host site for some mistletoe, you can, the best way to control it is to actually physically remove the mistletoe from the tree. So to remove it, you should prune that branch at least a foot down the limb from where the mistletoe has rooted into that limb. By controlling one or two small or initial clumps of mistletoe, you can prevent it from taking over the tree in future years. It's going to create more berries, which will bring more birds, spread it to more sites within that tree. Eventually, if it gets to be a overwhelming percentage of that tree, then it may well weaken the tree. And the other concept is, as long as there's great weather conditions, usually a tree has enough extra capacity to feed both itself and the mistletoe plant. However, when there are times that the tree gets stressed, then perhaps the extra that is going to the mistletoe would be detrimental to the tree. Folks commonly know that the berries of the mistletoe are poisonous, and when you bring the mistletoe into your home, you should be aware of berries as they may drop and may be consumed by small children or pet.
Most of the toxicity concerns are holdovers from European mistletoe, which contains viscotoxin. Phototoxin, which is the toxic protein present in Phorodendron leucarpum, is much less toxic and has not been correlated with severe symptoms. The plant tissue contains the bulk of this protein, with very little in the berries.
Mistletoe is used in some of the botanical medicinal products, and even the University of California, San Diego Medical Lab is looking at some anti-cancer properties of mistletoe. Has been shown to boost the immune system, and in some cases is involved in some directed cell death that may, if been able to control properly, may be able to be targeted at some cancer cells, and also may offer some protection from some carcinogens. So as at this point, still has not been approved for any medicines that have been released at this point. Mistletoe can typically be aged by the size of the plant. In the first few years, it only grows several millimeters and probably would remain unnoticed. And in points after that, it may grow several centimeters a year. This, of course, impacted by the degree to which those Hesperia have been able to infiltrate the branch, the amount of water and being brought up through the tree. And of course, these plants are green all year round. We just tend to see them in the wintertime when they're the only green thing left on the tree. And of course, it's during this time that they're able to capture more sunlight during this winter time, which is usually the time they also tend to fruit. Now, the multiple species that are in Australia have caused that country to actually start a program where they are propagating mistletoe as they become food sources for different species of animals all through the year. When other food sources are scarce, certain animals tend to target the mistletoe in other countries where there are more species diversity. It is not known that mistletoe plays a significant role in any of the wildlife here, although we should note that obviously if the birds are eating it to distribute it, they do enjoy that as part of their diet. If you are going to prune the mistletoe out of your trees, it's likely it is quite high up in your tree because of where the vulnerable branches may be and where the birds land. If that is the case, where you cannot reach the mistletoe safely from the ground with a pole pruner or some other device, so potential, if it's one or two branches, you could use a throw rope, throw over the branch and just break the branch out. But if it is a stout branch and the mistletoe has taken a good toe hold, it may be worthwhile to contact a certified arborist to properly remove that branch and make a clean cut in the right location. You can find a certified arborist by going to treesaregood.org.
Thank you for joining us for 15 Minutes in the Forest. Be sure to join us at 12:15 on January 7th, where Karen Snape will be talking about how trees prepare for winter.